I went and I hung out with my friends for one night. So I wasn't at the apartment. He went and he told my dad that I slept with someone. He was like, I'm so hurt. How could she do this to me? What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my God, I don't fuck with you. I don't like you. And he knew that. When I tell you, one time, actually a few times, he was proud of this. He showed me that in his Snapchat, My Eyes Only, it was filled with pictures of me. And just like this, like just like a picture like this. It was like regular pictures.
He the type that's gonna kill you in your sleep. He the type that's gonna kill you in your sleep. You need to get as far away from him as humanly possible. Let's keep going.
So I fell asleep on the couch. Then when I woke up, he said to me, "You had a seizure when you were sleeping." I was like, "What?"
Let's talk about the fact that this man was watching you sleep. What you mean you had a seizure when you were sleeping? So you were asleep and he was in your room looking at you? Oh my goodness. Welcome back to another episode of Clocked Out Conversations. I'm your host, Fahim, and today we got some more TikTok content. Part 1, Who the F Did I Live With? I'm not here to waste your time. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, and let's get into it.
Part 1, Who the fuck do I live with? Girl, you're not ready for this. Take a drink of water, you're not ready for this. Basically, I'll give you a little bit of backstory before we start. So, I met this guy. He was actually my dad's friend. It's important to mention that he is Indian because of the culture shock. So, at the time, I was a 19-year-old girl. 19-year-old girl. At the time, he was a 24-year-old man. Okay? So, and he was also really close friends with my dad. So I thought, okay, safe person, you know, I thought I could be safe around you. So my parents ended up buying me this condo, and like, perfect. First time moving out, like, easy, and living with boys, like, you know, normally that is a little bit easier. That's what people told me anyways. So I was like, this will be fine.
Who told you living with boys would be easier? Why would you want to live with a boy? Why in the world would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that as a young woman, though? Let's keep going.
Well, did I know? Well, at first, when he moved in, it was like weird vibes. If you catch me looking down, it's because I jotted notes, obviously. So it's weird vibes. He said he wasn't ready to date yet, and I was like, okay. I don't know what the fuck that got to do with me, you know? At the time, me and my boyfriend were broken up, to put into some context, okay? We were still talking a little bit, but we were broken up. So technically I was single, but I was like, why are you telling me this? So he also said that he wanted me to give him head massages like his sister does, and I was like, immediately no. And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you stop it there? I don't know. So as we're getting to know him, he told us that him and his last girlfriend broke up because she's crazy. Red flag. And then he also said that his ex set him up because he added one of her friends on Snapchat and she was underage. And so he ended up getting fired from his job because of that. And then he had to move here from BC because of that. So where his sister is. He also told us about a time that he was falsely accused of raping somebody. And he just had like a weird relationship with his mom and his sister. But mind you, he was a master manipulator, guys. So he really led us to believe that he was like falsely accused. And we're like, oh, okay. You know, you don't know unless you know. Okay, so we began being friends. You know, we got really close, and, you know, I confided in him with some things, but I do it with you too, you know. I'm like, oh, hey, like, about my dad, you know, so I confided in him about my dad. Girl. So, in late August, he asked to borrow my phone for something. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Just handed him my phone. Didn't think it was a big deal. Keep in mind, we are friends, okay? If my friend's like, can I borrow your phone? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. So then he starts acting really weird, and he's telling me that he's meeting a friend for coffee, and I'm like, okay, like, I don't really care. And then he starts hinting at things, and I'm like, okay, this is really weird. So we're all hanging out, me, my best friend, and him. And we're all hanging out, we're outside, he's playing music on the speaker on YouTube. So I go, oh, can I play a song? And so I go, I'm not actually playing a song. I go straight to his call log. And I scroll down and I see A's dad. What the fuck? First of all, what a stupid name. A stupid name under a contact. Second of all, I'm like, what the fuck is this? He drops the bomb. He met up with my dad behind my back. Keep in mind, my dad agreed to meeting up with him to talk about me. I have no clue what they really talked about, but apparently he was like, well, I just feel like there was some miscommunication between things and you guys could have worked it out. Me and my dad have been in therapy before, okay? We've tried to work things out. It's not working, okay? So I flip my shit on him. I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you even think that's okay? Like, that you like completely undermined me. You went, like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And you guys were just gonna keep it a secret from me? Keep in mind, me and my dad haven't talked about it to this day, okay? But I'm like, what? Why would you do that? So then he cries outside my door. He's literally pouting outside my door with his knees in his hands, pouting, crying. He goes, I didn't mean to hurt you. Well, what the fuck was your intention then? Why, what would you think that was a good idea for? For real. Like, make it make sense.
That is wild though. If you tell somebody something that is close to you that gets you emotional about somebody else, and then that person that you told that those things to goes to that person that you were emotional about and tells them everything, that is underhanded as hell. That is crazy. Let's keep going.
So I was like, you need to leave me alone. You need to leave me alone. So he was like, okay. So then he goes back to his room, whatever. And then he's texting me and he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Keep in mind, this is on Snapchat, so I don't have the text messages. But he's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was like, leave me alone. Like, what you did, you don't even understand what you did. Like, that is so fucked up. Leave me alone. Girl, it gets worse. It gets worse. Then he texts me and he says, okay. Sends a text about himself. Then I'm like, what the fuck? He leaves. I hear the door slam. So I run out and I'm like, what the heck? So I run out. He's down the stairs already. He's way downstairs. He's already at his car. So I'm like flipping out and I'm like, is he actually going to do it? So I'm like spam calling him. And then I'm spam calling my best friend. I'm like, you need to call him. Like, he just told me this. Blah, 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 blah. He doesn't answer for hours. So then I call my mom. And she goes, what happened? So I tell her what happened. And I ask if my dad, like my stepdad, could get a hold of him, right? So then at 12:30 a.m., he finally answered. And I was like, what are you doing? What the hell? And my mom said, WTF, Allie, I want to talk about this more with you later, please. Apparently he's back at the apartment now. Yes, he is. So emotional manipulation to a T. So then after that, oh yeah, so he turned his phone off, whatever. He came back to the apartment and he told me he just couldn't do it. He told me he couldn't do it, and that he was with a friend. I said, why would you do that to me? Like, why? Do you know how much emotional distress? Like, that's my friend. That's my friend. You just put me through this, but you're still my friend. Like, what is going on? So then he apologized and he died down. So the next day, my mom texts me, and that was on August 31st that whole thing happened. So then my mom texts me, so how was it today? I would like an update. I was like, it's fine. I just woke up. She said, I didn't sleep after that call, maybe 3 hours. And I was like, I just don't understand why he thought any of that is okay. And then my mom was like, I really hope that you talked to him, and like drove home the point that the text he sent was emotional manipulation. And then I said, I know that. But then I said, he's a Cancer, if that puts that into perspective. So already deflecting. I'm like, that's my friend, like whatever, and I know what you're thinking. Why didn't you kick him out after that? I don't know. Victim blame me in the comments. I don't know why. I really don't.
That's not victim blaming. Why in the world would you sit here and want to be friends with somebody like that? Why would you want to do? People taking their own lives. That's a serious topic, bro. You sitting here faking that in order to keep this girl close to you for whatever reason? Nah, that's trifling. Also, sorry for the lighting, guys. I'm in a different environment right now. But let's keep on going.
Just before he answered, we were gonna call the cops and do a wellness check, obviously. But I couldn't kick him out because he could have sued us over that. He could have been like, well, that's wrongfully, whatever. So I was like, whatever. After that, it did die down. But then he cleaned my room. He went in my room, and my door wasn't locked because at the time, like, I had a cat there. I still have a cat, but the cat food and everything was in my room. So I needed the cat to go into my room to eat and stuff. So he fully helped himself, cleaned my room, found something underneath my bed, which was very personal to me, and berated me about it. He made me feel so bad about it. He would always have these side conversations, like berating me about it, not around our other roommate, who was also a guy, because he didn't like him, and the other roommate would put him in his place. He'd be like, you don't talk to women like that. Like, you don't do that. So he was really uncomfortable around the other roommate because he would always stick up for me.
What did he find under your bed? What did he find under your bed that was real close to you? Let's keep on going, bro.
Okay, I'm gonna go to part 2. Part 2, who the fuck do I live with? So whatever, it died down after that. It really did. And then we went golfing with one of my friends. He wanted me to set him up with one of my friends, and I was like, nah, like, she's not like that. But I was like, sure, we can go golfing. Like, we love golfing. So whatever, we went golfing. And when he was driving on the road, he was like swerving all around. He was texting, he was changing the music, and we were scared. Like, our lives were like literally in danger. I'm not even kidding. Like, he was like swerving into oncoming traffic. And we mentioned it, and he just laughed about it. So whatever, we got there, and have you ever been golfing? Like, you go golf, like, you do your own thing, like, you have conversations, but like, not really. Like, it's not like it's not like whatever. So then he takes it upon himself. He took a picture of us and posted it on his story because a lot of people called him gay. So he needed proof that he was with women. Okay. Now, I don't know if he is or not, and I don't really care. He also saved the image. He took 2 pictures of me, and he saved the image. And we'll get more into this later, okay? And then he was mad because she didn't entertain the idea of him. She was like, no, like, I'm not into you, whatever. So the whole ride home, he completely did not talk. And then after, he complained about it. He was like, she was so rude, blah, blah, blah. No. If a girl does not want you, she does not. No. I went on a trip to BC to see Beyonce, and I was like, hey, could you feed my cat while I'm gone? I was only gone for a few days. So then I texted him. I said, are you sleeping? And then he was like, no, I'm working silly. I said, oh, right. Did you see my snap? He said, yes. I was like, I'm missing Simba, which is my cat. Like, I'm just asking to see pictures of my cat to see if he's okay, And then he said, just him? I was like, yes. How do you think I want you, bro? How do you think I want you? Like, what? After this is when the emotional manipulation gets worse, but it's like so minimal that like, not that I couldn't pick up on it, but like it wasn't, I don't know how to explain it. You can victim blame me in the comments, I don't care. So he texted me, you home? I said, just got back, but they're still here. So obviously I was probably referring to my friends. I don't know. My friend was always there, okay? Even when I wasn't there. So he said, okay, sad face. I said, sorry, girl. I'm calling you girl. How do you think I want you? Like, what? And then he said, no, they're fine. I had a really terrible day today. I may cry or I don't know. So that's another thing. He would constantly, like, try to make me feel bad for him by saying, oh, I had a really terrible day. And it was just, like, his boss being like, hey, do your job. So I was like, oh, okay, sorry. And if you want these text messages, I can post them. I don't care. And, hi. How are you doing? I said, good. What about you? He said, good, I guess. I need drinks. Sorry. I said, it's okay. We can talk later. He said, okay, I be in my room. Let me know when you want to talk. I said, okay. I don't want to talk. But, like, you're my friend. I'll still help you. This is already like October and
We gonna cut it like this. Men and women cannot be friends. I keep telling y'all that. You see how this dude keep on trying to push up on this girl, and she has reiterated time and time again, she does not want him. Not to mention, why are you staying in an apartment or a condo with two boys? Your father let that happen? Who in the world told you that that was a good idea? Who convinced you that that was a good idea? Luckily, the other dude seemed to be relatively cool, but this dude that you talking about putting you through hell. I couldn't imagine having to be in an apartment sharing a space with a girl that keep on trying to push up on me, and I don't want to have nothing to do with her. Man, please, come on, let's keep on going.
already like just relying on me for things. And it was weird because like he wanted me to be like his sister in the sense that like he just needed emotional support, but it was like every single day he's like, I want to talk about things, and I'm like, okay, but like what do you want to talk about? So then eventually started calling me Moto every day. Okay, so in Punjabi that just means fat, and he'd be like, no, I'm doing it in a sense of like love, endearment. Like I was like, I don't even understand what that means, but whatever. So, and this was so confusing because he would be like, I love you like a friend, and then he would like way later he was like, no, I'm like in love with you. And I was like, okay, like I not doing that, like no, you know, like I have a man in my heart, you know what I mean? So no. But this was so confusing because this is somebody that I thought was my friend, and I also pushed boundaries so many times. He pushed boundaries, I set boundaries so many times, and I was like, no, like we're friends, like blah blah blah. So then on October 29th we went to my parents' house. Okay, so because he was friends with my dad, I'm really close with my mom, so he would whatever. So we were just talking at the table. I got a Starbucks drink, okay? I don't know what drink it was, but it had cold foam. And anybody who goes to Starbucks knows that cold foam is the best part of the fucking drink, right? So I had my lid in my hand, and I go to lick it. You know what he does? They were eating chicken, okay, with forks. Before I get to lick it, he goes with his fucking fork that he was touching chicken with. I have contamination OCD, okay, to put that into perspective. And not only that, his mouth was on it, okay? So I am pissed. I look at him and I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? And then he starts laughing. He thought it was so funny. I scooped. I know I shouldn't have done this, but I'm a 19-year-old girl, okay? 19. He's 24. So I scooped the rest of the cold foam off my hand and I fucking smacked him in the face with it. And then he smacked me back in the face. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So I went to the bathroom, I cleaned myself up, and then I just left. I said, you can fucking walk home. I'm leaving. And I drove away and I drove home and I was pissed. So then my mom texted me, what happened for you? I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, how come it was so intense that you felt the need to leave? I said, I was already in a bad mood. And she said, why? But I just said, yeah, he knew that. And my mom was like, oh, well, why didn't you just leave him at home? Well, he wanted to hang out with my dad. So I said, well, it's over now. I'm still mad. She was like, yeah. I was like, that's the best part of the drink. And he scrapes it with the chicken juice filled fork all over it. She goes, yeah, I saw that. I know. I said, that's why I was mad. She goes, I understand. And then I was like, is he still there? And she was like, yeah, he's pouting. I was like, good. And then, continuing on from the text, my mom said, I told him that you two need to spend more time apart and just to leave you alone. That's good advice. So I said, what did he say? Shook his head and looked down, because that's what he would do when he would pout and you tell him something that he didn't want to hear. She said, nothing. I said, so childish. She said, the whole thing was, he's on his way back, apparently. I said, he's walking? No, LOL. So, there. My dad drove him back. And then I said, oh, he's pouting here too. So then she said, just wait and talk about it later. So he came home, he started slamming doors, and he was pouting. So then I just was the bigger person, and I was like, you need to stop. Like, what? And then he made me apologize. He made me apologize. What? What? So, I know what you're thinking. Should have ended there. No, it didn't. It didn't. I know. And after this, things kind of died down in the sense of like anger, but then he started coming into my room every single day and telling me things that my dad told him when actually was like the opposite things of what my dad told him. And he would be like, you know, like, your dad really wants us to be together and blah 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 blah. But when I would go and talk to my dad about it and be like, why, he'd be like, I never said that. So it was like a back and forth thing of like, then he would go and tell my dad that I wanted to be with him, and he would talk to me about it, and I would be like, no. And the thing is that for me, I would insult him in a sense of like putting him in his place, putting him in boundaries. I would be like, no, you're short. I'd say that because he was really insecure about his height. So, you know, whatever. I know that, again, 19-year-old girl, okay? So then, after like switching all these things up, I went and I hung out with my friends for one night. So I wasn't at the apartment. He went and he told my dad that I slept with someone. Not only would that be none of my dad's business, it would be none of his business. And then he blew it out of proportion. He was like, I'm so hurt. How could she do this to me? What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my God, I don't fuck with you. I don't like you. And he knew that. Go to part 3. Part 3, who the fuck do I live with? That I ended up getting a lecture from my dad. And he was basically like, you know, in the Punjabi community, we have high standards. You need to have a high value as a woman. Very outdated, okay? But it's the culture, okay? If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And I know what you're thinking. Why wasn't that your last straw? Don't know. After that, this is December, this text message from December. And I said, well, he came into my room to talk to me again last night after he was with my dad. And then she said, about what? I said, I'll call you when you have time. It was so funny. So I remember this conversation because he came into my room. He was sitting on, totally made himself at home. And he literally, there was like something in his eyes. And he said, you know, like, I'm going to convince our parents that we can be together. Because in Indian culture, like, his parents, he could not be with a white girl. So that was my thank God. He was like, I'm going to convince our parents to be together because my mom obviously was against it. My dad was against it. And his parents were against it. Like, no. So I literally laughed in his face. At this point, I'm so tired of it. I laughed in his fucking face so many times. And I was like, right. So as I'm laughing in his face, I'm right looking back as a 21-year-old. He saw it like, right. But no, it was more like, right. But that's like my sense of humor. You're like, oh, I'm gonna marry you. I'd be like, right, like, you're gonna marry me. But not knowing at the time, because again, I'm 19. At this point, I was 20, I think. But anyways, not knowing at the time that he saw it as, yes, I'm going to marry you. So that's like, you can victim blame me in the comments if you want to for doing that. But, you know, I didn't fully grasp it. I didn't really understand what's going on in his mind because obviously he is unwell. He is so unwell. And he also had planned this whole thing out in his head. He said that we are going to move to the city. He's going to buy a house. He's going to get his parents to come to Canada. And we're going to live with his parents. And then I was like, I do not, like, not only do I not want you, I said this to him, I was like, I would never live with your parents. Like, that's not me. And then he was like, oh, that's fine. Like, I'll get them a separate house and they can, I was like, no, like, what are you not understanding? So obviously he was not, I tried so many times to set boundaries. And like, I'm really undergoing it here because it was every single day. Every single day he would come into my room after work and he would victim blame me, honestly. Just do it. not only that, they wouldn't clean at all. So I was the only one cleaning, and then one day I did have like a little crash out because I was the only one cleaning, and I had to be studying for finals, but this was the state of the house. Okay? And he told me that he would deal with it, and he never would. So that's like I did scream at him. Because I was like, you never clean. And he's like, well, I clean the bathroom. And I was like, well, obviously you don't. Like, if I can't tell that it's been cleaned, it's not clean, you know? So, whatever. Then, December 9th, my mom had called me because he went to the house and he talked to my dad again. And so my mom had called me and told me what was going on and what he was telling my dad about, like, just his delusions and being like, oh yes, we're gonna be together, she wants to be with me. And my dad would be like, no, like, she doesn't, she's not gonna be with you, but also she's gonna set her own boundaries. And because of that miscommunication, this whole thing, we actually didn't know what was being said. Like, me and my dad never had the chance to, like, sit down and talk about things. So that also made it difficult because he would always be there. Like, always. So this was really difficult. So my mom called me and told me what was going on. So then, but at that point, he was already at home. So then, my mom called me, I put her on speakerphone, I was with my friend, we're in the living room, and then, so we went to my bedroom and talked. So then I go, he asked me if I talked to you, I said no, why? He said nothing, and then he said, who called you then? I said, you're really nosy. And then he said, he heard you call and ask if she was on speaker, and then heard us go into my room. So I said, yeah, I lied. And he was like, okay. I was like, why? Do you have something to tell me? And he was like, no, do you have something to tell me? And I was like, no. So that was a lot because it was like, why? Like, just trying to find out everything to, like, mastermind it and, like, flip words and then figure out who said what so he could, like, guys, like, this was a bad situation. And, like, I feel like now, like, looking back at it, we actually didn't make a bigger deal out of it than it actually was, because it was scary. My boyfriend came back from med school just for the little break, and so we would hang out. I would go to his house, he would come to my house, whatever. He would guilt trip me so bad. He would be like, you guys aren't together, he doesn't really want you, if he really wanted you, you guys would be together, blah 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 blah. So then every time that I would go or we would hang out, like, that's what he would say to me, and he would make me feel bad. So then he texts me, I be up, just text me when you get back, I guess, because he would want me to come comfort him that I was hanging out with my soon-to-be boyfriend. It was so weird. So I said, okay, you can go to sleep, it's okay. He said, I won't be able to. I said, why? And I know what you're thinking, I should have turned my phone off. I agree, but I didn't have the mental capacity that I do now to, it was such a fucked up situation, guys. Like, and he was really good at manipulation. He was. And so then he said, you know why, but I'm sorry, I don't want to make you feel bad. Oh, right, because I was supposed to feel bad that I wasn't with him. I was with my boyfriend. I can't even think to make you feel like it, but if that's what makes you feel happy, then you have to be fun. I be fine, or try. I said, I'm sorry, like, I'll be home soon. We're hanging out. He says, no, I am sorry, and take your time. Don't come home early because of me. I be fine, honestly. Okay. So I didn't reply. Obviously, I didn't go home. Like, I'm with the man that I love. Like, it was so weird, guys.
Man, if he don't go take his sorry self somewhere else, this girl does not want you. Go and be with somebody else, bro. You spending all this time trying to get a girl that clearly is completely uninterested. Not to mention, you're a weirdo. You're a weirdo. Why you keep going in this girl room, bro? You're weird. you. No wonder why she don't like you.
So anyways, then 2 days later, I went and I hung out with him again. And then he said, our other roommate just made fun of me when you left. I said, for what? He said, he laughed at me in a way like, look how you are trying, and she still goes to him. I said, sorry. He said, nah, you good. I deserve it. What the fuck am I doing? I'm sorry, Alu. You have fun. Like you said, do it all tonight from last 3 times, lol. I said, it's okay. And oh my God, just go to sleep. That is emotional manipulation. He's like, well, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. I feel so bad for doing it, but I'm still going to continue to do it. I don't want you. I don't want you. I told you that many times. So then after that, he again would say to me countless times, you know, like, oh, he doesn't want you. He won't give you the life that I will. And I was like, how? He is going to be a doctor. You work at a tire shop. What are you talking about right now? So whatever. And I feel like the main reason that I actually felt safe in my apartment was because my friend was there all the time. She witnessed it all. And I really feel sorry for her because he also did things to her. Okay, go to part 4. Part 4, who the fuck do I live with? Well, I really give my ex-best friend credit because she watched this whole thing happen. She was there for me every day. You know, I was able to debrief with her and like talk about things. She witnessed it all. And like, I do feel like she's the reason that it didn't get to a scarier place. And I also feel like that about the other roommate too. Like, I really feel like they did actually save me from a lot. So, the only time that he would message her and talk to her was to ask about me, what I was doing, who I was talking to, things like that, just to get information on me. And then he would call her fat. And also that, like, they did talk, you know. They talked like a relationship. They went out on like 2 dates. So that was another reason, like I told him, I was like, you also were a thing with my best friend. Like, that would never happen. Like, I would never even do that to her. He was like, no, we weren't. Guys, it was just like compulsive lying to everybody to make him seem like the better person, the bigger person, the mature person, the victim. And like, no, I would never. And then he just talked down to her about her. And I was like, you know, that's still my best friend. Like, what a weird thing to say about somebody who is so close to me. Never stopped, you know, and I was like, no, like, me and my boyfriend, soon to be boyfriend, doing great, like, you know. And it's confusing because like we were kind of friends, acquaintances, like, it was messed up. But then again, like, every night he would come into my room and he would harass me and he'd be like, you know, he doesn't want you, trying to like brainwash me by telling me things so many times. He doesn't want you, like, I'm gonna give you the life you want, like, we're gonna live a dream life. And he even showed me his bank account and it was like, look how much money I have, like, I can prove to you that, no, like, no, I don't want you. And I don't know how many times I have to say it, countless strategies of boundaries, whatever. And then he would like come back and tell me, oh, I talked to your dad, he said that we're a perfect match, and if he had to set you up with somebody, he would set you up with me. So then I went to my dad and I was like, why the fuck would you tell him that, knowing the things that he's doing? And he's like, I never fucking told him that. And I was like, what the master manipulator? Like, I'm really trying to drive the point home of what the extent he was doing. And he was doing this along many months. So September to February, I finally snapped after he was harassing me more and more and more, and he was like crying to me. So I snapped and I said it very nicely to him though. I said, I think you need to find a new place to stay. And he was like, what? This sent him spiraling. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I can't keep telling you no. Like, it's exhausting for me. I just can't. And that sent him spiraling. He went on a silent treatment. He took a week off work. He went and stayed with his sister. Keep in mind, during this whole thing, he would go to his sister and he would call her and he would be like, tell her, I don't even know what, but she would be like, oh, well, like, she's just playing hard to get. But then another time, like, she came to our place and I said hi to her and she's like, you don't want that girl. Like, she didn't even say hi to me. Who are you? Who is you? Like, at the point I texted my mom because I was like, do you think I was wrong for telling him to move out? And she was like, when? Like, after his permanent residency? Because he was waiting for his permanent residency. He was just working on a work permit. So I was like, I whispered on a voice memo something, but I didn't save it. I know I should have. So then she was like, he's still in love with you and that's why he's doing this. Like, he's just like emotional manipulation, like silent treatment, whatever. And so he told me that he hasn't moved out yet because he didn't have the money. I get it, you know. Things are expensive, but I was like, at what cost is my mental health? No. So I was like, I can't do it. And then I said, he has like 12 grand saved up to buy a house, but probably just doesn't want to tell his sister that I want him to leave because that doesn't fit in his idea of he's gonna get me and he's lying to his family and whatever. So I was like, that's what I think. And my mom was like, just take deep breaths. Everything is temporary. And I was like, yeah. So the real reason that he was scared to move out was because he thought he wasn't going to get his permanent residency in time. And so he was asking my mom if he could stay. Well, my mom was the landlord, to keep in mind. So I don't know what my mom said to him. Oh, girl. And then the power bill. So we all, three of us, had a verbal agreement that we would all pitch in to pay the power bill in thirds, you know. So I would use his.
Those verbal agreements don't mean anything. You need a contract. Those verbal agreements don't mean nothing. Let's keep going.
Credit card, because to keep him accountable of paying his own bills, you know. But also I don't have a credit card. Still don't have a credit card. So I wasn't able to pull it online by myself. So I asked everyone for the part in the power bill because I managed to set it up on something. I was able to pay it by myself. Finally, and he just read the text. But he actually left the group chat, actually. I think I have a screenshot of it. Hold on. So I texted the group chat and I said the total for the power bill for the last 2 months I paid by myself was $127. So if you guys want to send me $42 each, that would be great. And my other roommate thumbs up it, and then he just left the group. So at that point he wasn't talking to me, and he was visiting his sister, so whatever. So when he came back home, I was just like waiting for him to say something to me, but he was still pouting. He would like slam doors and stuff like that. It was so childish, guys. So whatever. So then I see him going to use the microwave. Well, who bought the microwave for the place? Me. So being the immature 20-year-old that I did, I went up to him and he was putting his food in the microwave and I unplugged it. And he tried to plug it back in and I unplugged it. I said, you're not using my power if you don't pay for it.
That is not immature. What's immature is him leaving that group chat when it was time to pay up that money for the electricity. Absolutely not. Come on now.
And so he flipped out. He was like, let me show you something. And he got his phone and he was shaking. And he was like, look, it charged me twice. I was like, well, we don't have a credit on the power bill. So that's something you take up with your credit card company. And then he just flipped his shit and he was like, I'm not paying the power because and he wasn't understanding it. I was like, this isn't the power bill's fault. This is your credit card company that you have to take it up with. Like, not us. We don't have a credit on it. So then he ends up telling me that I need to act more like a Punjabi girl. Because I said, you need to treat me like respect. And my other roommate actually came out and was like, you can't talk to women like that, like you, because he was screaming at me and he was degrading me, and he was like, you can't talk to women like that. And I was like, literally, like, I'm my dad's daughter, like. And he was like, so act like it, act like a Punjabi girl. I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, I'm not Punjabi, so what are you talking about? Go to part 5. At this point, I was pissed. I was like, what does that even mean? So I ended up calling my mom and I was like, you need to come down here and negotiate this because he's just being brutal. And I told him, I was like, I'm calling my mom. Like, but the power bill wasn't a landlord issue. It was an agreement between the three of us. So whatever. He ran to my dad. I said, I told Dad what happened, and he said, well, technically he doesn't have to pay the power bill. And my mom said, well, that was a verbal agreement between the three of you. So then at the time of when it happened, my mom said, if I come there, it's going to be terms of de-escalating the situation. And I said, well, he was scared of my mom. He really was. So I said, he's scared of you, so, like, I'm sure it will work. I was like, I need something because I'm over this. But she ended up having to do school and whatever, she couldn't come. So, whatever. So, then I started locking my door every time I would leave it. Every time I would leave my room.
You should have been doing that from the beginning. What did it take you so long to lock your door for?
I was scared. He also did emotional manipulation, mental manipulation about things like, he would say, I have cameras in your closet. I have cameras hidden in your room. And that would scare me. So after he would do these insane things, he would buy me things like Starbucks or just something small to kind of like love bomb and be like, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean to do that. But then he wouldn't learn from his actions and he would just keep doing it. And I know there was like a lot of times where I should have been like, you need to leave, but I didn't. It's really hard to grasp because you think that like they're your friend and then like you all of a sudden are just dropped with this. And like your families are so close. See, so my dad is 36, okay? He was 24. My dad kind of helps people come to Canada. He helps them get settled and whatever. So that's how we kind of met. And he actually met me when I was only 17. So he did tell me one time that he knew that he liked me as soon as he saw me or something. That's a child. Like, no. And he ended up getting his permanent residency and moving away. While he was moving out, he was telling people stuff about me. So, after he moved out, he said that I was a narcissist and the things that I was telling people was a lie. And so that even made me question myself. And I was like, did I imagine things? Like, did this really happen? You know, questioning myself. But I was like, in reality, like, he, like, histrionic personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. And it doesn't help that he would have a mom and a sister that would go and enable everything that he does. He also, after love bombing me, he would say that he bought everything in my room. Who are you talking to right now? Because I know you're not talking about me. Oh, he called me a whore and said I was cheating on my boyfriend. Where? How? No. Like, no. He said that I accused him of rape. Going back to part 1, when he had already told me that somebody had accused, and I didn't do that. I didn't accuse him of anything. And I was like, why would he say that? Like, I don't understand why he would say that. And, oh, he also said I'm not acting like a Punjabi woman. So he would tell this to the Punjabi community because it is like a big community in our town, and overall, in hopes that it would ruin my reputation, that it would ruin my dad's reputation, and just kind of bring me down. And in reality, I feel like I need to share my story. I need to share what happened. But God, I actually wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Like, it was a mental fuck. And always try to bring me down, always try to make me look stupid around people. And one time we went out for lunch because he was like apologizing for something. Then when he got me there, he was like, this is the date. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, you're actually apologizing. So it was so hard. But girl.
Come on now, though. If he's this aggravating to you, why are you going out with him, bruh? Let's call a spade a spade. If he's doing all of this, admittedly, weird, disgusting, overstepping of the boundaries stuff to you, why are you even entertaining lunch with this man? Especially if he has tried to come on to you in the past and you have told him no. Let's keep going.
That's not even the gag of it all. So the gag of it, he would take pictures of me and send it to me, and I was like, okay, like, cool. When I tell you, one time, actually a few times, he was proud of this. He showed me that in his Snapchat, My Eyes Only, it was filled with pictures of me. And just like this, like just like a picture like this, it was like regular pictures. And I told him multiple times, I'm like, that's weird, like, it makes me uncomfortable, you need to delete it. And he didn't.
He the type that's gonna kill you in your sleep. He the type that's gonna kill you in your sleep. You need to get as far away from him as humanly possible. Let's keep going.
And listen to me saying no. Just don't do it. I'm telling you no, so why are you doing it? This was also like moral of the story, everything like juggled up in one, okay? This was a summary. It was a lot worse, and I'm really trying to put that like in your brain. It was so much worse, guys. In the moment, like, I was really in danger. And at the time, like, we didn't take it seriously enough, I feel like. But I'm glad it's over. Makes for a great story time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to victim blame me in the comments. Like, I don't really care. I want to say thank you to everybody who was supporting me in the comments. I did actually get a few hate comments, but I ended up deleting them. Just like for my sake, for my mental sake. But anyways, I'm going to tell you a few more stories, and then I'm going to answer some questions. Okay, so one time, it's important to know I have epilepsy. I have seizures. At the time, I was working a job and doing school. So I was exhausted, and having epilepsy, you're already exhausted. But I was like more exhausted, so I would fall asleep anywhere. So I fell asleep on the couch. Then when I woke up, he said to me, "You had a seizure when you were sleeping." I was like, what? Because I never had a seizure when I was sleeping before. So then immediately I told my doctor, valid thing to do. So then he talks to my mom about it, and my mom was like, okay, like, what did it look like? Very concerned. He didn't know what to say. So my mom was like, Allie, like, he's lying about it. But by then I had already told my doctor, And I don't think my doctor is going to believe me. So now,
Let's talk about the fact that this man was watching you sleep. What you mean you had a seizure when you were sleeping? So you were asleep and he was in your room looking at you? Oh my goodness.
I got my meds increased. I'm having hallucinations because of my med increase. I can't get off of my medication. And he was only thinking of himself in the moment, only thinking like, I'm the hero, I'm gonna save her from this fake story. And yeah, that's taken a toll on me. Obviously, his parents were also opposed to us being together, thank God. But he asked them to do a compatibility test anyways, because apparently they were like big into astrology. So they did. And they were like, no, you guys aren't compatible. You're going to be sick if you get with her. Like, it's not going to be good. He looked at me. He's like, I will be sick. Like, I promise I will be fine. Like, it's worth being sick to be with you. I was like, no. And then he's like, oh, and he got so sad. And then he told me the date. And he goes, October 24th and whatever. I don't know what his birthday is. And I was like, thinking, so stupid of me. So fucking stupid of me. I said, October 24th. That's not my birthday. The change in his face went like this to this, and pure excitement. He called his parents right away. They redid it. Anyways, horrible compatibility again. So thank God. So obviously done. Okay, that's done. Oh, I want to address a few comments. So number one, somebody commented, I deleted it. They said, this story is so fake, you're just doing this for attention. I wish the story was fake and I was doing it for attention. But no, this is my life, unfortunately. Second, someone commented, 19-year-old woman. Teen and woman should not be in the same sentence. You're a 19-year-old girl. You are still a child. This is your first experience at life, and this is what it is. No, like that in itself sets you back, okay? Another one. Why did your dad have a friend that was in his 20s? My dad, I addressed this in a video, but my dad helps people come here to like get settled from India. So he is in a sense a lot of people's mentor anyways, okay? They come to him for advice, and they share stories about what it was like in India. So anyways, he had met his sister first, his older sister. They're closer in age. They not that they were like friends, but they were friends. So then he meets him and they get along, they share stories about India, whatever. That's what you do. You build a community in the community when you're an immigrant, okay? I know a lot of people won't get that, but that is a thing. Anyways, they weren't friends. My dad was his friend, but he wasn't my dad's friend. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Please listen to my words carefully, because a lot of people are taking it out of context. Don't take it out of context, okay? Some people are saying, why did you think it would be okay for you to move in with a 24-year-old man when you're 19? I didn't think it was a problem. I seriously didn't think it was a problem. The other roommate was in his 20s, also a man. He was fine. He was a little bit messy, a little bit annoying. He was fine. He was so kind. Oh, really quickly, I have been deleting racist comments. Just because I had a bad experience with one Indian guy doesn't make them all bad. Okay? I've had multiple bad experiences with men. Do I think all men are bad? Yeah, maybe. It's all men commenting under my videos hating on me. So, what do you think that would think? So anyways, my brother, my sister, and my stepdad are all Indian. So if you're coming in here being racist towards Indians, you are going to get your comment deleted and you will be blocked. That is not okay. And I just thought I should let you guys know that. Why would you think it was okay? It's not even okay to be racist, you weirdo. Another comment I got was, why didn't your parents protect you? So I talked to them about this last night because I was like, I never really heard your guys' story. So I talked to them. They said that they did talk to him, actually, multiple times. Obviously, this guy was a master manipulator. He would go to one person, say another thing to this person, then this person, he would take what they said, switch it to this person. okay? He would flip words all the time, make it look like a different thing. So because I was able to talk to my family throughout this, they talked to him. They did. I didn't know about this. My mom said to him, "You will never fucking date my daughter. You have to respect her boundaries, and this is your last warning." So not sure when that was, but obviously it was at a point where it died down. And my dad also talked to him, saying the same thing. I didn't know about that. The more you know. It's obviously taking the exact opposite from what one person said and telling it to the next person, okay? And it was like a big triangle of mess. I'm glad you guys haven't gotten manipulated, but I also think I've been through a lot worse, guys. I have. And I'll continue to do story times. But I think because it was such a unique situation and I haven't been through something like this before, you know, you don't really know what to do. So also, my mom told me that throughout this whole thing, her and my dad would talk multiple different kinds of plans of action. They couldn't kick him out. I could tell him to leave, but they couldn't kick him out because it's hard to explain for a TikTok, but basically he could have taken them to court easily and be like, "This is wrongful eviction. We live in Canada," okay? It's a long story. But yeah, he could have taken us to court. So luckily, finally, he listened to me and he left. Anyways, thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for making me feel validated, because I've seen a lot of comments be like, "I can tell you're embarrassed. I can tell you're, like, I'm still anxious about this situation. Do I feel safe?" No. You know, it's a very hard situation to grasp. But I just want to thank you for your support, because coming out, I was so anxious to share. I'm still anxious every time I get a comment, actually, because there have been really mean comments, but you guys have been so amazing, and I'm so thankful. And I promise I'll do more story times, because this isn't even the worst. So thank you so much.
So, what do you guys think about this story time? I don't think she should have moved in with two dudes in the first place. I think that that is the first problem in this entire situation. Second, she should have moved out of there immediately and stopped entertaining him, even though they were living in the same unit, I suppose. So I know that that can be easier said than done, especially if somebody, you know, lives across the hall from you or something like that. It's pretty difficult to just completely ignore them. But at the same time, I have to put some blame on the father as well. Why in the world would you want your daughter to be rooming with two dudes? Like, where did that, how in the world did you think that that was going to go? How did you even rationalize that in your mind? But I'm glad that she was able to get out this situation, and hopefully that weirdo gets held accountable in some kind of way in the future, because, I mean, he was a grown man talking like this. I mean, he was talking to a 19-year-old, and he was like 24, 25, I think she said in the story. And so the fact that he was acting so childish and manipulative, it just goes to show his character. But what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with me that she shouldn't have been in a unit with two guys in the first place? Or do you guys think that it shouldn't have been a problem even if there were two dudes, and that one guy who was a weirdo was the only issue that she should have been concerned with? Thank you for tuning into this Clocked Out Conversation. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.